Since the worst case scenario just occurred, could we please give Stephanie Way a round of applause? The Fever's loss to the previously winless Sun marked a brutal low point in their Caitlin stretch. Now even the most devoted fans are beginning to ask the difficult question. If they lose this game tonight, you can cancel Christmas because you have much bigger problems than just Caitlin Clark being out. You better take down the tree and pack up the ornaments. It's painfully obvious that this stretch without Caitlin Clark isn't just a test for the Fever, it's a reckoning for the entire WNBA. I had these two games as victories, but now that I'm looking at the schedule, I realize that you can't take any of these games for granted because they could theoretically lose all of them. It's not just that they've lost, it's how they've looked doing it. They have the Fever, so they've looked like one of the worst teams in the league without Caitlin Clark. The WNBA depends on the success of the Indiana Fever, and in particular Caitlin Clark. The ratings are in, and the Fever appear to be in decline. Without Caitlin Clark, they are not only losing games, but also losing the support of the fans. There have already been calls for Stephanie White to be fired, and there are serious doubts about whether this roster, especially with major injuries, can even survive. But before you give up, let me explain why. Fans are panicking about what's truly wrong and why there is still hope. But first, like this video if you're counting down the days until Caitlin Clark returns. Leave a comment, hit the subscribe button, and let's get started. The Indiana Fever deserve to be the WNBA's laughingstock because of all the nonsense they did during preseason. It was obvious that the team would suffer without Caitlin Clark, but I don't think anyone anticipated it getting this bad so quickly. Additionally, the backlash has been severe since the Fever's loss to the Connecticut Sun, the team that had been winless, missing important players, and was widely regarded as the worst in the league, turned into a full-fledged attack. Florida Party non-Fever fans piled on, making fun of the coaching staff, the roster, and the Fever. To top it all off, the Connecticut Sun's own social media account joined in on the fun, openly mocking the Fever. The Fever entered the season talking big, and their Now You Know campaign wasn't just bold. It was borderline prophetic trash talk. They weren't just aiming for respect, they were claiming the league. And honestly, with Caitlin Clark joining a roster that was reloaded with veterans and new talent, it wasn't crazy to think this team had championship potential. However, they lost their entire starting five, their coach to Indiana, one of their all-stars to Indiana, and they don't have a training facility. They're on a national tour without Caitlin, and we thought they might be able to hold their own while she recovered. However, after being dropped by the winless Sun, all bets are off. You should win 3 of your 4 games, and you should be a strong team that defeats the Connecticut Sun without Caitlin Clark. That makes me wonder how good this team is, but it's not just about 1 or 2 games. Fans and analysts have been praising the team's style of basketball even. They're tired of Stephanie White, the coach, who came in as this mega mind and does a good job in front of the media, but doesn't seem to know how to get the most out of this team. They're also tired of the coach saying, "We're working things out for the rest of the season. We're trying to figure out our identity." Because you have Caitlin effing Clark on your team, you shouldn't have to figure out who you are. At least put in some effort, run, and don't try to beat a team and win a game in the 70s because you won't be able to do that when Caitlin Clark returns. Recall Sophie Cunningham's preseason interviews where she expressed excitement for a fast-paced, dynamic, up-tempo, high-octane run-and-gun off. However, the Fever haven't been anything like that. Instead of accelerating the pace, they've appeared sluggish and bewildered, like a team still trying to find its identity, and without Caitlin Clark's direction, they simply haven't. It was entertaining to watch last night when the commentators discussed the Indiana Fever and Connecticut Sun as the 2 slowest teams in the WNBA. If you had told me that would have been said during any Indiana Fever game, I would have thought you were crazy. The Indiana Fever and Connecticut Sun are the 2 slowest teams in the WNBA, and last night they only had 4 points in transition buckets, which was again without Caitlin Clark. With all of the preseason hype, who would have guessed that the Fever would be among the league's slowest teams? I'll explain why that's a serious problem that goes beyond the box score in a moment, because this isn't just a Fever problem, it could affect the entire WNBA. However, things have gotten so bad that fans and analysts are already calling for significant changes, and some are even missing Christie sides. This team's offense is worse than Christie sides, and their motion offense is gifted. This was supposed to be a new day, a new dawn, a new head coach, and a new era for Indiana Fever basketball, and I would much rather, yes, people give me Christie sides back, goodness gracious. I said it anyway, the fan base is panicking right now, but it's not just a Fever problem. 4 players stand around and ask, what are we meant to do, what are we meant to do, what are we meant to do, and eventually the ball probably gets turned over. This Wednesday's Fever Mystics WNBA game averaged 357,000 viewers on NBA TV, which was without Caitlin Clark, but that's still a long way off. The previous NBA TV game against the Dream averaged 81,000 viewers with Caitlin Clark, so I've seen the ratings argument spun in a few different ways. The league as a whole should be concerned because when your biggest star is out and your most hyped team falls apart, it doesn't just destroy local morale, it also undermines the confidence of every new fan who is finally giving the league a chance. Contrasting viewpoints: on the one hand, it's undeniable that ratings are declining without Caitlin Clark. But on the other, people are saying, hey, some of these games are still among the top draws on NBA TV. This sounds good until you realize that NBA TV isn't exactly prime real estate, but the truth that gets lost in all the spin is that the WNBA wasn't booming before Caitlin. It was only growing modestly, losing $40 million just last season. Not only are they losing viewers, but they're also losing the casual fans who brought the arenas to life. The broadcast was relevant, the advertisers paid attention, and many people thought, well, Caitlin Clark's not growing the game if people won't tune in with her. You see, people stopped watching the NBA when Jordan retired, stopped watching baseball when he went, and stopped watching again until Kobe came along. This is not difficult, it's the same pattern you see across. Here's what I see it. A lot of people are watching right now to see how the Fever hold up without Caitlin Clark, and so far it's been brutal. I also believe that another drawback is that the Indiana Fever play puke basketball even with Caitlin Clark this season. Casual fans disappear in every major sport when the biggest star isn't playing, and that's exactly what's starting to happen here. Sure, some people are still pointing to respectable numbers and trying to spin it as a victory. The WNBA could lose a lot of momentum if the Fever continue to play in this slow, sloppy, uninspired manner and Caitlin misses more than 4 games. This is because sports momentum is brittle, and without their biggest star and a competitive product, casual fans won't wait around. It doesn't take much to go from trending to forgotten, so I think this number will continue to decline if we see a product like the Indiana Fever versus the Washington Mystics, which was not enjoyable. The league and perhaps even the Fever still don't seem to understand the WNBA's slow growth, years of stagnation, and ongoing struggle to break through. It's always been about the product, and there are 2 important components to that product. First, excitement. Caitlin Clark brought it in buckets, making the game must-see: long threes, laser passes, and edge-of-your-seat pace, which is what drew in millions of new fans. Yes, there are other great players, but none of them had the same energy, flair, or mainstream magnetism, which is why fans are paying attention, and the Fever aren't playing that style of basketball right now. I apologize, but unless you're actively trying to avoid running, you can't have 0 fast break points as a team. That coach, Stephanie White, was in charge of the Indiana Fever, but all she said when she joined the team was, "We're going to play with pace, we're going to play fast, we know our strengths, we're going to shoot those threes, and you guys are the problem." The second and most important part is that the WNBA seems to have this strange reward system where physicality is treated as a badge of honor even when it crosses the line. Let's face it, Caitlin Clark took a beating last season, and this isn't just any rookie. She is the golden goose, the star driving ticket sales, viewership, merchandise, and national coverage. I apologize, but that style of basketball is the most entertaining one you can watch. The league strapped her to the hood of a speeding car in a hailstorm and said, "Good luck out there." She had no protection, no whistles, and constant hit. She even put on weight during the offseason to withstand more contact, but the officials ignored the warning, and now the situation is getting worse. Sydney Colson and Sophie Cunningham, 2 more Fever players, were knocked out by the same player, JCS Sheldon, so Caitlin is out now. Colleagues are being benched, ratings are declining, ticket prices are skyrocketing, fans are canceling trips, and all of this feels like self-inflicted wounds that could have been avoided with a different strategy. The NBA is the one that I will give the most credit for because they improved their game and made it something that was appealing to people all over the world, entertaining for fans, and protecting the players first. The physicality is taking its toll on the Fever, and it's not just a team issue. This is the kind of thing that can sink the league's momentum, or at the very least tank the players' chances of making the kind of money they're hoping for in the next CBA negotiation. We are 1 season away from the new CBA negotiations, and I told you guys that this is the biggest year in the WNBA. At all costs, you cannot do reckless things without getting fined, without getting suspended, without getting severely punished. They have a lot of potential this season if they have a successful season, and even if they don't, when they perform well on the court, more fans will watch. When more fans watch the Indiana Fever, they watch every other WNBA team, which is exactly what the WNBA. If you start losing casual fans, it's very difficult to win them back.
and the Fever are the key to attracting casual fans when the product they were watching abruptly disappears or changes in appearance. It's the casual viewers who make all of this work, not the diehards. It's the casual viewers who are drawing in these high ratings. Oh, Caitlin Clark's playing the casuals gonna tune in. Now, this all looks really bad, but I did promise that this wasn't all doom and gloom and that there is light at the end of the tunnel. They don't stay around to trust the process, which is why this stretch without Caitlin is so dangerous. Every poor game, viral lowlight, and missed opportunity makes it harder to win back the people who nearly diehards. The end of the tunnel begins with the word acceptance. I know it may not be ideal to have all your eggs in one basket, but in this case, there's no denying it anymore. The data is clear. The ratings, ticket sales, and cultural impact are all tied to Caitlin Clark. You have to think the league will wake up and start protecting her at all costs, unless they would much rather put the sentiments of the old guard before Caitlin's success. Even though the Fever weren't exactly dominant prior to the injury, they were only a few dubious calls away from defeating the Liberty, one of the best teams in the league, and that game saw a peak of 3 points. She has time cloud defending Clark, trying to create some airspace. Long three at applause. Caitlin Clark rising from the ashes here in the third quarter, as rough as the Fever have looked lately. WNBA history's biggest viewership of 3 million, and the thing is that Caitlin Clark is not out with a torn ACL, rather it's a quad strain. She's already back out there shooting threes at practice, so even though she was injured, she still went out there, drew the largest crowd the league has ever seen, and put on a show that tells you everything you need to know about her value and potential to recover strongly. If she really had to, she probably could play, but they're being smart and making sure she's 100% before rushing her back, and she will benefit from it when she does. The Fever are now 2-4. They were 1-8 the previous season before things turned around. Sure, we can question the coaching, and it's reasonable to be disappointed in how some of the veterans have performed or not, but this is a brand new team, and the season is far from over when Caitlin returns healthy. If this team can learn from early adversity, they'll be better for it. The Sundame was at its lowest point, but that's also the kind of moment you rally around, so no. At the end of the day, the millions of fans who are coming in want to see a good product on the court. They want to see the product that they fell in love with. They want to see fast basket three-pointers, and these girls with a fiery spirit. They want to see that. They don't want to see slow basketball, and they especially don't want to see losses, which isn't what this team promised. Therefore, it's time to regroup and stop worrying about the product on the court. By the time we're about halfway through the season and the excuses start to run out, it won't be about missing pieces or early chemistry issues. It will be about what's broken and what needs fixed. However, just like in the WNBA, Caitlin Clark is the system right now. She's the engine, the identity, and the reason people show up. If she returns and the Fever are still playing slow, uninspired basketball and making the same mistakes after 10 more games, then yes, it's time for a serious evaluation. The WNBA's collective Achilles heel may be their inability to fully accept Caitlin Clark, so we can only hope she returns soon. The coaching staff finally puts her and the team in the best position to succeed, to operate with or without her, and that's a lot to carry, but she's proven she can handle it. Hopefully out of all this, the league wakes up and realizes the opportunity they have, because if the Fever fails, so does everyone. There's a great quote by Steve Martin that goes, "Be so good they can't ignore you." That's exactly what Caitlin and the Fever need to do. Be unquestionable and let the basketball speak louder than the narratives. Because without Caitlin and without fun basketball, people are already tuning out. If you're still here, leave a trophy in the comments because you're a winner for having stayed until the end. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next.